if we can't decide upon that, then we're not going to make any progress. And let me go back again to Abu Bakr Bashir and show you what he has to say about this very question.
Saya hanya sebagai penyambung lidah apa yang disampaikan oleh Nabi.
I'm just telling people what our Prophet Muhammad said about Islam. You have to understand that these are not my thoughts. I'm delivering what Islam is according to Muhammad and his friends.
Itu menurut keterangannya Nabi Muhammad dan para sahabatnya dan para ulama.
So it's a very convenient excuse to say don't shoot the messenger, but at the end of the day it doesn't advance the debate much.
Well, the word of the Prophet which is left to us are in thousands of books, in thousands of hadith. So he might be conveying one or two words of the Prophet, but there are left with thousands more that should be also conveyed to the others.
Well, I mean, you just said that Islam, there's nothing wrong with Islam being modern, and yet you're saying we should respect what's written in the books. Now, there is surely a conflict there.
And I think this sort of conflict is coming to the surface today, simply because as a result of access to information, access to knowledge, the Muslim community worldwide, I think, has the ability to actually learn more about Islam on their own terms. And I think here you have a crisis of confidence among the self-proclaimed leaders of the Muslim community, who perhaps do not want there to be a democratization of knowledge and democratization of interpretation and understanding among Muslims. Hence the difficulties that the Muslim world faces today with hate campaigns, with attempts to actually deny certain groups the right to speak about Islam, to interpret Islam. Women in particular, Muslim women, have historically been marginalized from this process, and we have to admit this.
And that observation carries a lot of weight, certainly in Western circles. The idea that within Islam, maintaining a degree of ignorance is in fact politically expedient. Can you speak to that?
I would go for the concept of the methodology of explaining Islam. From my understanding of Islam is that when you go back to the Prophet, when you go back to the teaching of the Quran, I don't think there is any single verse or single saying of the Prophet saying that this is the Islam and this is the only way that you should propagate it. My understanding is that the basic of Islam is there. How to propagate it depends on which period of time do you live and which part of the world you live. Because even the Prophet has said in one of his saying that you got to tell the people the knowledge of Islam according to the level of knowledge. So now we are talking about ignorance of Islam within the non-Muslim community, and even in the Muslim community are having this huge problem of ignorance towards Islam. It is a matter of methodology, explaining what Islam is about and how it is to be explained. But the problem is again, when they talk about the methodology, always the concentration is on groups which are more vocal in their voices rather than the slow voices of Islam, the moderate voices of Islam.
Which is essentially one of the arguments you were making about the Sharia law. Let's get back to that for a moment. Now, you're suggesting that there's a misunderstanding about the nature of Sharia law, and there are different ways of looking at it. Explain to me what you regard as being perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about Sharia law.
When you talk about Sharia law, it's this whole system of the law which compromise the criminal aspect of it, the banking aspect of it, and so many different aspects of the law. But always the concentration is just on the criminal part of it. Islamic banking is very popular now, not even within the Muslim community, even the non-Muslim community. It is part of Islamic.
What's wrong with concentrating on that aspect of it? Because that is the aspect that causes most people problems. I mean, why should we ignore that just because it's a broader issue?
The part that I think most people confuse is the procedural and also the substantive part of the law. Most concentration are only on the substantive part of the law. Not much of discussion is being made on the procedural part of the law.
Well, I think while in principle I would agree with you, I think it remains a problem that we have to address, because I accept the distinction between, say, law and governance in areas of economics and politics, but let's not forget that it is precisely in the application of criminal law that Sharia in general gets discredited. It's one thing to talk about, let's try to build a society where we can have economic justice for the poor. But if economic justice is delivered through chopping of hands and stoning people in public, inevitably Muslims and non-Muslims will raise questions about it, including the question of, is this the way that we practice law, as you say, in the context of today's modern age? Is this how we implement Islamic law? And I think this is why,
speaks for Islam.